everybody. Welcome back to World History. Um, we're going to go ahead and do section 2 today. So go ahead and get your notes out and let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and move my little bubble. Well, try to anyway. Come on. Whee! I'm going to move it up here. That way it's out of the way. So our lesson for today, we're going to be looking at how the Renaissance influenced Northern Europe. So like primarily what will become like England, France, Germany, like that general region. So one of the first things we have to talk about is the printing press. Developed by Johann Gutenberg, this gentleman right here. He will make the printing press with movable type. He's also the first to complete a copy of the Bible. Prior to this, books were handwritten. So like literally there would be monks that would just sit there and just write the Bible all day long. Now, a machine did it, and a lot faster. 15 to 20 million books are going to be produced really quickly. The impact is it's cheaper. People are able to access it. It raised the literacy rates, and it spread the new ideas and places to everybody because they had access to it. So the Northern Renaissance, we're going to talk about some artists. Oh, I probably should move my bubble so we can actually see the art. Whee! For those of you that know the videos, you know I move the bubble around a lot. We have Jan van Eyck, who depicted townspeople and religious scenes in pretty realistic detail. We have Peter Bruegel, who depicted peasant life, and Peter Paul Rubens, who blended realist and classical styles of art. So Van Eyck, we have the Ghent altarpiece, and then this one is one of Bruegel's works, and this one is Paul Rubens. Again, a lot of same elements of the Renaissance art that we were talking about last time, but with a little bit of a northern twist. But probably the most famous artist to talk about is Albrecht Dürer, a German painter who was heavily influenced by the Italian Renaissance. Basically, he's considered the Leonardo da Vinci of the Northern Renaissance, very similar to da Vinci in terms of like engineering, inventions, and just the amount of things that he did. One of the things he piloted and created was engraving. This is designs etched onto a metal plate with acid, typically depicting religious upheaval like the end of the world, like think like Book of Revelations, like the end of the Bible, like the end of the world. That's what Dürer was like, this is my bread and butter, this is what I'm going to focus on. Really, and he's one of the more famous artists to come out of the Northern Renaissance. While there are others like Van Eyck and Rubens who we just talked about, Dürer is like the first name that comes to mind when you talk about Northern Renaissance art. Here's a couple pieces of his work that kind of depict like the bad parts of life. Like people are starving, people are struggling. Not something you typically see in art prior to this point. Really, just art up until this point usually typically only portrayed the good parts of history. Dürer started to show like, well, hey, here's what's going on in society. Here's the problems. Let's fix this. Now, just like we talked about for the Italian Renaissance, we do also have writers. Again, humanists stressed education and classical learning. One of the big things they did was writing in the vernacular, everyday language of ordinary people. So, like, if you read in English, it was written in English. It wasn't written in Latin, a language you couldn't understand. Desiderius Erasmus, this gentleman here, a Dutch priest who called for social reform, wrote a book called The In Praise of Folly in Dutch. He also translated the Bible in Greek and to the Dutch vernacular. He believed that all people should have access to the Bible. Prior to this, your only connection to the Bible was going to church on Sunday and listening to the priest read it to you in Latin, and you hoped you understood it, because really you didn't understand the language. Now it was in a language that you did understand. You knew Dutch or Greek or any of these languages, and you were able to follow along or read it for yourself. Some other writers, and once again, I've got to move the bubble. Wee, woo. Okay, come on. So we have Thomas More, this gentleman right here, who also called for social reform. He wrote the book Utopia, which talks about an ideal society, peace, and harmony. We'll talk about utopias a lot. He called for all people to be educated, but utopias, I hate to burst the bubble, look great on paper. They don't work in reality, though. We have Francois Rabelais, who wrote Gargantua and Pantagruel in the French vernacular. Talked about religion, education. His stuff was really obscene. Like, I'd almost equivalent to like Saturday Night Live sketches in terms of like just like it's making fun of people, it's calling people out. It's like, hey, you done wrong, we're going to call you out on your baloney. And then, of course, we have William Shakespeare, who talked about the complexity of the individual, realism, the importance of the classics, and wrote in the British vernacular. So, English. It's among one of our early examples of English writing, actually. You'll talk a lot more about Shakespeare in ELA courses, but we are going to do an activity with Shakespearean insults today in class because those are fun. So that is it for section 2. So like I said, we're going to do that Shakespeare activity. After that, there's a Renaissance art worksheet that you all are going to complete. On that note, I will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.